On The Real Story, the fight for the 5th Congressional District. Just 2 years ago, Chris Murphy was the young guy trying to take out a longtime congresswoman. Now, someone else, David Cappiello, wants to send him packing. Connecticut's 5th Congressional District includes all of northwestern Connecticut and runs from Meriden to Waterbury to parts of the Farmington Valley, in an area that has historically been Republican. Newcomer Democrat Chris Murphy pulled off a major upset here 2 years ago when he sent longtime Congresswoman Nancy Johnson packing.
People here in Connecticut were sending a very clear signal that we wanted a new direction, that status quo was not acceptable.
And now, with Murphy defending his own record, his former colleague in the state Senate, Republican David Cappiello, has been throwing some major punches at the freshman congressman. The latest right hook having to do with Murphy's vote in favor of the $700 billion bailout bill.
He's received almost $500,000 from the industry, the financial services industry, of the community that he regulates. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Countrywide, almost $500,000. And now he is bailing them out.
David has received, enormous amounts of money from the financial services community, so I think it's tough to throw stones.
And now, with The Real Story on all of the above are the candidates here in person. 5th District Congressman, a Democrat, Chris Murphy, who is running for re-election, and the Republican who wants to take him out of office, State Senator David Cappiello, that is. Gentlemen, thanks for being here on the launch of our new show, The Real Story, formerly known as Beyond the Headlines, just so people don't get confused. But guys, let's start with this. You both have been saying a lot of things having to do with the $700 billion bailout. If you missed the story, basically you said, Senator Cappiello, that Congressman Murphy has been accepting money from the financial industry. Congressman Murphy says that you have also received money from the financial industry. So I guess true or false? What's the answer to both of these?
Well, let's start out with the standard that Congressman Murphy set 2 years ago when he accused Nancy Johnson of being in the pockets of special interest in the pharmaceutical industry and said that her vote for Medicare Part D was based upon her contributions from that industry. He played commercials saying just that. Now, recently, we've seen in his filings that he's received $500,000 in the financial services industry. Now, he sits on the Financial Services Committee and oversees Wall Street and those individuals. But he's right. I have received money from individuals. Saying true. Well, I've received money from individuals in my district, like people who are realtors, people in the financial services industry. But I haven't received one dime from PACs or special interests from those industries, and he has received over $250,000.
How much money have you received?
Overall in my fundraising?
Yes.
Fundraising, I've raised over about $1.4 million to his virtually $3 million, but he's received $1 million in PAC contributions to my $200,000 in PAC contributions.
So it sounds like you're saying that taints his judgment, right? Because then we'll ask the congressman. Is that the case? What's your response to that?
Well, we both have a list of contributions that the other person has taken that we object to. I mean, I wouldn't take money from big drug companies like Pfizer or big tobacco companies like R.J. Reynolds that Senator Cappiello has taken money from. And, as the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee, he oversees policy from those industries. So we could spend this entire campaign, exchanging, accusations about who's taken what money from different groups. I think at the center of this was this economic bill the right thing to do for this district? Was it the right thing to do to get our economy back on stable ground? And this wasn't an appetizing vote for anyone who voted for it, but the alternative, the economy falling apart, people losing their jobs, small businesses not being able to get access to the capital to be able to protect their employees and grow their employees, I think just was unacceptable. And so I think we should probably be spending our time talking about the merits of the bill and Senator Cappiello's alternative if he wasn't going to be prepared to vote for it.
Well, we had Alan Greenspan on TV saying that we are now in a credit tsunami of the century. Now, this is after the bailout. So looking back, though, you still have no regrets.
Voting for the bill?
The $700 billion economic stimulus package.
No, the alternative, which was to do nothing and to allow for the economy to fall into ruin, was just unacceptable for the people in my district. I went right after the first vote to the New Britain Stop and Shop, and a woman came up to me to tell me that she was on the verge of withdrawing all of her money from her 401k because she didn't believe that Congress was going to be able to come together and pass legislation to try to address this situation. And it probably would have been easy for me as a new member of Congress who wasn't there when Wall Street took on all of this unmanageable risk to just vote against it, but it wouldn't have been the right thing to do for my constituents. A politically difficult vote to take, but I think the necessary one for our economy.
Senator Cappiello, this has been the source of many of your commercials, though. You're saying this was the wrong thing to do. So you're saying what Congressman Murphy did was the wrong move. What would you have done if you were in office?
Well, there are two issues here. First, the congressman is avoiding the issue that he set the stage 2 years ago and set the standard by accusing the former congresswoman of voting for Medicare Part D because of her money from the drug companies. And now he is saying that it's okay.
No, we're not talking about the talking points. My question to you was, what would you have done?
I'm getting that in a moment.
I want to know, what would you have done?
He has accepted money from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Countrywide, Citigroup. Even on the day of the bailout vote, he took thousands of dollars in campaign contributions. First, I would have Wall Street.
Senator, with all due respect, I've known you for a long time. I'm not asking what Congressman Murphy would have done. What would you have done? Without bringing up what we've already discussed. What would
if you let me finish, I will tell you.
Okay.
First, I would have had Wall Street insure itself and bail itself out instead of putting $700 billion on the hook for the American taxpayers, which is what the congressman has done. There was a 3-page bill that the president put on his desk. It was unacceptable by the president. Then Congress, in a matter of days, turned it into a 450-page document that cost $700 billion, ended up having pork for earmarks for arrow companies, wooden arrow companies, for NASCAR, for rum dealers that he had voted for. He railed against that 2 years ago. I would have also cut the capital gains tax for 2 years to give more liquidity for the market. There are other ideas on the table that he didn't even vote or debate when he was down there. He simply fell into line and voted with his leadership. And you know, I'm against the president, our Republican president, who put the idea on the table to begin with only 3 pages. That's irresponsible.
Well, it changed. It wasn't 3 pages when they voted on it. But I guess, Congressman, what would you say? Should you have taken more time taken more time to look at the bill? Are you happy with the time that you had?
Well, the fact is that what the president gave us was absolutely unacceptable. A 3-page bill that said, I'm going to do anything I want, wherever I want, whenever I want. And we spent those 2 weeks fighting hard against the president and many of his supporters to put in some very important taxpayer protections, to limit the compensation of CEOs that participate in the program, to guarantee that when the program is done, Wall Street will pay for the cost of the bill. But Senator Cappiello's idea that Wall Street should just insure itself, well, that was the ruse that Wall Street has pulled over us for the last decade, is that don't worry about us, we'll take care of our own shop. Wall Street couldn't do that. They couldn't insure themselves, and that's why we find ourselves in the problem right now. I mean, that's easy to say. Wall Street should just, fix their own problem. They've been trying to pull that one over on Congress for the last 10 years. It hasn't worked. We now know that the regulatory system was fundamentally broken. The next step is setting up a new regulatory structure to make sure that never again does a crisis on Wall Street become a crisis for all of us here in Connecticut. We have 30 seconds.
We're going to come back and talk to you again in the second segment. But I guess, is this the end of capitalism as we know it? We have 20 seconds. Is this socialism?
Well, let me say that, remember, for the last 2 years, the congressman has served on the Financial Services Committee and hasn't seen this coming. He's been raising money from these groups.
Chris, socialism?
No, this is a referendum on the type of capitalism we've exercised for the last 10 years, which is one in which Wall Street got whatever they want, and that can't continue to exist.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, they're talking in my ear. But would you say, do you think this is the end of capitalism by bailing out Wall Street?
I think we should be very, very concerned about our banks being nationalized. And Barney Frank and Chris Dodd and others have ignored this problem for years. It's not simply the administration. I agree with Chris. 3-page document is unacceptable, but they've ignored this problem. There's no reformation of Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and that's the problem with this bill.
All right, we will be back with part 2. Thank you.